Okay, a good fach, a good yar, all that tefillas should be answered. And again, it's wonderful to start up another round. Let's go through a lot of information to understand today's daf. It basically you have to know what a kesubos banim dichrin is. So we said that a man went ahead, he wanted to marry off his daughter, but he certainly doesn't want someone who's not his family inheriting him. So what might happen? A man gives a nice dowry to his daughter. She gets married. She predeceases her husband. And what happens is now the husband inherits everything. And if he remarries, everything that the man gave to his daughter now is shifting over to another family. So to go ahead and incentivize a man to go ahead and give a proper nedunya, a proper dowry, that the Chacham made a takana. What's the takana? That the children inherit their mother's ksuba. So if a woman predeceased her husband, and then the husband dies, the woman, the banim dirchen, they would inherit the ksuba. So when exactly does that scenario take place? So I'll give you two possibilities. One is the obvious, and one's not so obvious. The obvious one would be where a man gets married twice. So he gets married, he has children from wife A, gets married, children from wife B. Wife A predeceases him, that's why he remarried again, and wife B predeceases him. So now, each one of the respective children, whatever the Kesubos banim dichrin states in there, will receive that. That's the easy one. Here's the more difficult one, where wife A predeceases him, but he predeceases wife B. So now, if he predeceases wife B, then she has a right to collect the ksuba. She's an almana now. So you have them collecting a ksuba mitoras chayv, that she's owed the money. Kesubos banim dichrin from the first wife is mitoras yerusha. So I could say two things. I could say the following: the Chachamim never made kesubos banim dichrin in that situation. Why? Because since there's a chov over here, and there's a chiyuv, and there's Yerusha over here, why don't we make just one big pot, one big Yerusha, and everyone will inherit everybody? Despite the fact that the first children are in line to inherit a bigger ksuba, perhaps. So there is a Manda Amu says, in fact, yeah, that's true. It's true that kesubos banim dichrin is only said in the first scenario, where wife A and B predeceased the husband. But Eina Chinami, when wife B outlives the husband and she's collecting a chayiv, then we won't say kesubos banim dichrin, it will be Yerusha. Okay. Our Mishnah clearly stated that even in scenario number 2, you do say kesubos banim dichrin, right? What did our Mishnah say? The Mishnah said that as long as Yerusha, the halacha of midoraisa of Yerusha is being kept, the Chachamim kept the kesubos banim dichrin. What does that mean? That wife A dies, right? So that goes ahead before the husband, that puts into play the kesubos banim dichrin. Wife B outlasts the first husband. Now, if this one, she collects the chayv, and she collects the ksuba, and there's something left over to divide up, even a dinar, we'd say that's what the Mishnah says. As long as there's something that you could divide up mitaris Yerusha, kesubos banim dichrin will be in play. However, if you're limited, meaning after the division of wife B collecting a ksuba and boy Yisoimim A collecting their ksuba, there's nothing left to divide. We're not going to say kesubos banim dichrin. Why? Because the Chachamim never made a takana when it's going to be mevatel Yerusha. So when there won't be Yerusha, what do we say? It's one big pot. So the example would be this: the ksuba of A is $1,000. The ksuba B is $500. So if you say kesubos banim dichrin, this one is getting $500 collecting the mother's ksuba. This one is getting $1,000. Good. If you don't say kesubos banim dichrin, it's going to be $750, right? It's going to be $1,500 in the pot, and you're going to divide it. So in order to go ahead and say kesubos banim dichrin, you'd have to have $1,501. As long as you have the $1 that they can divide up, mitaris Yerusha, will say kesubos banim dichrin is intact. That's the hakdama, and that's what we did the other day. The Gemara suggested that this, whether you say Kesuvos Banim Dichrin in a scenario where you have the one wife predeceases and the other one where the wife outlives the husband, we want to suggest that it was Machloikas Tanoim. Here was the suggestion, here was the chart. I sent it out on the phone, but here it is over here. Okay, here it is. We have Benanis and Rabbi Akiva. And here's the Machloikas. Achas b'chayav, achas b'moisai. One was in his lifetime and one was in his death. So one died when he was alive and one died when and one outlived him. So says Benanis, take your ksuba and leave. Meaning, yes, Kesuvos Banim Dichrin. You, the second pair, take your ksuba, and we, the first pair, will take the Kesuvos Banim Dichrin. Rabbi Akiva says the Yerusha jumps from the Bnei Rishona to Bnei Shniya. Why? Because the ksuba of Banim Dichrin leaves the first and goes to the second. So you say, Benanis would say, yes, you do say Kesuvos Banim Dichrin, and Rabbi Akiva would say no. That was the suggestion on Friday. I keep on saying Friday, on what's today? Wednesday, on Tuesday. So the Gemara then suggests no. B. Kuli Alma says yes. Everyone says that what? You would say Kesuvos Banim Dichrin, even Rabbi Akiva. So how do we answer up? He's speaking where there's a dina left over. He's speaking where there's a dina left over. He's speaking where there's a dina left over. And he's speaking what? That there's no dina left over. In other words, in our scenario, there's not $1,501. There's only $1,500. Since you can't keep the Torah Yerusha, everything is finished. Since you can't keep the Torah Yerusha, everything is finished. So in other words, you wanted to say it's a Machloikas Tanoim between Benanis and Rabbi Akiva. I'm telling you it's not a Machloikas. I could say Rabbi Akiva agrees, and he says the reason why you don't say Kesuvos Banim Dichrin is because you don't have a Yerusha to divide. And B'Makom, you don't have a Yerusha, you're not going to be invited to Yerusha to keep Kesuvos Banim Dichrin. Rabbi Yosef, they had a kasha on this. Rabbi Akiva says about the Kesuba jumping back and forth. It never said anything about Ikka Chasim and a Seifa. It never said anything about the dinar. Therefore, Rabbi Yosef says the same pshat is column A over here, and therefore we want to suggest now at this point this is the point in the Gemara where we're holding at Rabbi Akiva, and whether you say Kesuvos Banim Dichrin in a scenario where one dies and one outlives the husband is in fact the Machloikas Tanoim. But Benanis says you do say Kesuvos Banim Dichrin, and Rabbi Akiva says you don't. The rest of the first part of the shir, guys, is suggesting that we have other Manda Omrim. I'm going to try to get this a little closer. We have other Manda Omrim, specifically Rav Shimon and Tanakama, who are arguing in the same thing. We want to say Rav Shimon will hold like Benanis, and the Tanakama holds like Rabbi Akiva. And what we're going to do is disprove that. We're going to have a few scenarios of disproving that. So right now, the next part of the share is suggesting that just as we established Benanis and Rabbi Akiva are arguing whether you say Kesuvos Banim Dichrin in that case, it's also Machloikas between Rav Shimon. That's where we're holding right now. Okay, I spoke for a long time. I hope somebody knew what was going on. That was a big schmooze. It's okay. So we're up to Sadik Amid Beis, where one, two, three, four, five, 6 lines up. 6 lines up. V'hani tanoi, Benanis and Rabbi Akiva, kehani tanoi, are going to hold like the machloikis that we're going to introduce right now between Rav Shimon and the Tanakama. What's the machloikis? The Tanya. Nasa as a Rishona, he marries his first wife, Umesa, and what? She dies. Nasa as a Shniya, marries the second wife, Umes, and he dies. So this is our scenario, guys, right? This is he outlives one, not the other. Boy and Banel Shelzu, the Havamina guys, the children of the second one who are collecting Kesuba come along, La'acha Misa, V'noit Kesuba Simon, and they go ahead and they take the Kesuba of their mother. So the Tanakam is saying they take the Kesuba of the mother. Reb Shimon Omer, Im Yesh Meiser Dinar, if there's extra Dinar, Eila Noit Kesubas Iman, Ve'ela Noit Kesubas Iman. Each one will take the Kesuba of their mother. So apparently, That's the machlokes we want to say right now. That's the machlokes, guys. This column. Rav Shimon says, let's go to Tanakama first. Tanakama says, comes along the second pair, they take the ksuba of the mother, but the first one doesn't. Guys, the first one doesn't take it. Good. Why? Because they don't hold the ksubas banim dichrin in that situation. Says Rav Shimon, if you have left over one dinar, in fact, you would come along and take the ksubas banim dichrin. So you see that what? That it's machlokes. Reb Shimon would hold like Ben Nanis, and Rabbi Kiva would hold like the Tanakama. Yes, Mayor.
I don't understand why, in the case where she died first with the husband, why is there a ksuba altogether?
I gave that as a hakdama. That's called ksubas banim dichrin. They inherit the ksuba, Mayor.
Yeah,
that's
but why is there a ksuba if she died first?
Because that's the takana of the chachamim, that the children will inherit the ksuba,
even if she dies first.
Because, or else, why would the father of the bride give anything over? He's going to lose it. That was the whole hakdama. That's ksubas banim dichrin. That's exactly what it is.
Okay.
Okay, they inherit the ksuba of their mother. That's the chiddush. So, guys, good now, guys. So, guys, we're set up, right? Guys, we're set up. Let's get a little. We're set up. Ben Nanis, who holds, you do say in that scenario. Reb Shimon holds like Ben Nanis. Rabbi Akiva says you don't say it in that scenario. The Tanakama would hold like Rabbi Akiva. Now the Gemara is going to disprove that. It says Gemara, "Dem lav cholkim b'shava." My lav b'hokim iflagi. Here's the machlokes. 3 lines from the bottom. The masavar. Reb Shimon holds achas b'chayav achas b'moisoi. Yesh lem ksubas banim dichrin. You would have ksubas banim dichrin. Umasavar, and the Tanakama holds achas b'chayav achas b'moisoi. Ein lem ksubas banim dichrin. So therefore, the second ones collect the ksuba, and the first ones don't, because there's no ksubas banim dichrin in that scenario. So we're all matched up, guys. If you just joined and don't know what is flying, all you have to know is one thing. We have machlokes between Ben Nanis and Rabbi Akiva. We have machlokes between Rav Shimon and Tanakama. Rav Shimon holds like the Ben Nanis, and Rabbi Akiva holds like the Tanakama. That's it. That's what you have to know. Now, we're going to tell you that that Rav Shimon and his Tanakama are arguing in a different scenario. Says more like the Kuli Alma, Achas b'chayav, Achas b'moisa yeshlem, because it was banim dichrin. So you read the Tanakama wrong. The Tanakama holds you'd still say it in that scenario. Amid Aleph. V'hacha b'dinrei mikarka kamiflagi. And the machlokes over here, if the dina has to be in karka. Masava mikarka in the tatlin loy, umasava afil metatli. Okay, so here we're going to bring up the chart, and this is the suggestion. Guys, Kuli Alma, look where the pointer is. Kuli Alma, yes. Everyone says you would say ksubas banim dichrin in that scenario. So what's the machlokes? If again you need a dinar left over, because if you don't have a dinar, you don't have a Yerusha to divide. That Yerusha, can it be a metaltalin or dafka and karka? Says Reb Shimon, it can even be a metaltalin. Says the Tanakama, it can even be a what? It can only be in karka. But einachinami, if you did have it left over, you would go ahead and divide. And that's the machlokes between Reb Shimon and the Tanakama. So it's not. So you thought that Reb Shimon and the Tanakama are arguing in Ben Nanis and Rabbi Akiva? No, they both agree with Ben Nanis that you do say ksubas banim dichrin, and their machlokes is contingent upon that leftover dinar. Does it have to be a dinar worth of karka or a dinar worth of metaltalin? Reb Shimon says metaltalin. Here's the problem. We're going to see Reb Shimon doesn't say that. Back in the Gemara, umi matzas amra hachi. So we're going to do it. We're going to do the Gemara, and then I'll bring out the chart. Guys, are you following along this? Are we doing okay here? I mean, okay. So now, umi matzas amra hachi, but Tanan Reb Shimon omer afilu yeshem nechasim shein lemachrayis ein a klum. Even if you have metaltalin, it's not considered a dinar. Actually, shom nechasim sheish lemachrayis. So yesra base ksubas dinar. You have to have in karka a dinar more than 2 ksubas. In other words, this is not a viable explanation of the machlokes between Reb Shimon and the Tanakama, because Reb Shimon holds you need karka. The metaltalin doesn't work. So therefore, right now we're holding. So the machlokes they must be like Ben Nanis and Rabbi Akiva. Elano hacha b'dinrei mishabdi kamiflagi. They're arguing whether the kedina can be even on a lean. Masava mibnei chayrin in mishabdi loy umasava filu mishabdi. Good. Now, By now we know you need, in our scenario, guys, 1,500, you need one, right? 1,500. One guy has a ksuba of 1,000, one guy has a ksuba of 500, you need one. That one, it has to be in karka. Good. Can it be karka that you have a lien on, or it has to be in your rishus? Says the Tanakama, it has to be in your rishus. Says Rabbi Shimon, it can even be from Shubadim. But they both agree, you do say Kesuvos banim dichrin, even in a scenario where one achas b'chayav, achas b'moisai. So in other words, what are we doing? We're disproving that it's a machlokes between Rav Shimon and the Tanakama, that it matches up to the machlokes between Ben Nanas and Rabbi Akiva. Okay, so that's the machlokes. Says Rav Shimon, it could even be mishubadim. Says the Chachamim, no, it's the Tanakama, it's got to be dafka, something that is free, not as a lien. Now comes out Rav Shimon is what? Rav Shimon Omer im yesham ma'aser dinar. It's not im yesham ma'aser, if there is a ma'aser, right? It should say kimin sheyesham ma'aser, right? It's mashma Rav Shimon is coming to be mekel, not being machmer. If you say that, what im yesham ma'aser, if there is, it's not if there is, but kimin sheyesham, right? Not if he has, but since there is, guys, he doesn't have to have it. It just has to exist. He holds mishubadim, right? It's not that's not im yesham, that's sheyesham. So therefore, in other words, he's coming to be mekel. According to you, it's coming to be machmir. Ela bepachas medina kamiflagid. Argue me pachas medina. Masav adina in pachas medina loy, umasav afilu pachas medina. Okay, Fred Rav Shimon dina kamar. Okay, so now let's just get. I'm gonna call this quits soon. I'm just gonna I mean, guys, watch. Let's go through it again, starting from here. We want to say this machlokes over here is the same as this machlokes over here. Good. We said no. They both agree over here. They disagree with Rabbi Akiva. Their agreement's contingent upon Rabbi Shimon says this dina could be metaltalin, and he says karka. Fred Gemara, Rabbi Shimon says karka. Okay, so here's the din that karka can even be mishubadim, right? Can even be mishubadim, and he says it's only bnei chayrin. The problem is that's the case. If Shimon is being mekel, that can be mishubadim and not being machmir, then it should say kiman sheyesham. So because of the kasha, we're going to G. G is this is pachas medina and dina. Whether it has to be if Shimon is being mekel that what even less than a dina, you go ahead and say you would say that Kesuvos banim dichrin and the chacham dein dina. The problem with that is if Shimon says a dina. So now the Gemara is going to do something very highfalutin. It's going to take either scenario E or F, and then it's going to switch this around. We're going to say that he holds metaltal and he holds karka, and then he's going to switch this around. He holds bnei chayrin, he holds mishubadim, and we're going to switch that around. And since we switch that around, all questions will come off, and then the machlokes won't be machlokes anymore, and then we're going to go weiter. Okay, if that made any sense. But one of the things with Daf Yomi, you got to know when to hold them and you got to know when to fold them. I'm folding right now, so I understand the Gemara. I think I understand the Gemara. I have a nice chart that explains the Gemara, and I'm going weiter. So let's go. So now, Rav Shimon Dina Kamar. So you can't tell me Rav Shimon the machlokes is whether pachas medina or not. Rav Shimon says Dina. And if you're going to say epuch, switch around two scenarios, the Tanakama the Mastisa Nami Dina Kamar Elki Hanach Trei Lishni Kamoy the epuch. Amamar Zutra Mishmeid Rav Papa Hilchasad Allah is. As long as there's a dina left over, there's Kesuvos banim dichrin. A Kesuba nasas moisel chaverata, and a Kesuba we consider a chayiv. A Kesuba we consider a chayiv, and therefore will become moiser. In other words, once you pay off the chayiv, guys, once you pay off the chayiv, the Kesuvos banim dichrin will go engage because Piyas bal chayiv is a mitzvah. It's like okay now. Bishlemi yashminan achas b'chayiv achas b'moiser yeshem Kesuvos banim dichrin first. Well, and you didn't tell me Kesuba nasas moisel chaverta. I would have said. In other words, I would have said that only if there's leftover money will we say Kesuvos banim dichrin in the scenario of achas moisav achas v'chayav, but not if you have a Kesuba. But once you tell me the Kesuba, memela, it's automatic. It says Gemara, Ela lashmina Kesuba nasas moisel chaverta. Why don't you just tell me the Kesuba becomes moisa to its chaver? By no yadana mishum the achas v'chayav achas b'moisa yeshem Kesuvos banim dichrin. Guys, if you say once you say it's a chayiv, the second ksuba, automatically you're saying there's a Kesuvos banim dichrin. Because if it wasn't a chayiv, right? If it wasn't a chayiv, you wouldn't have. Once you tell me there's a chayiv, it's left over. You know there's ksubas banim dichrin. So in other words, you told me two dinim. You told me in the scenario of akas b'chayiv akas meiser is ksubas banim dichrin, and you told me ksubas is considered meiser. Says the Gemara, Bishlam, you tell me one and not two. I understand. Once you tell me two, automatically I know one. Why'd you have to tell me one? Says the Gemara, if you would have just told me two and not one, have I mean the following? I would have said, he married what? 3 women. He married 3 women. And he didn't have too much luck because the first 2 died. So therefore, there's 2 ksubas banim dichrin. The 2 of them died. So he's had 3 wives. 2 are potential ksubas banim dichrin. The achas b'maisai, and one, the 3rd wife, outlived him. The hach demayas la'acha misa yoledus nekeva. And the one that afterwards was in the keva. So what do you have now, guys? You have ksubas banim dichrin, but you don't have one alive and one dead. You have 2 dead wives. The 3rd one, even though she outlived the husband, is only had a daughter. A daughter's not going to inherit in that situation, right? So if you would have told me achas b'chayav achas b'maisai, I would have said ksubas banim dichrin is in that scenario, right? V'lav bas yerushahi, aval achas b'chayav achas b'maisai, right? V'hola achamisa yoled esachahi emalechish and suya kamash malan, right? Fred the Marakasha. If once you tell me a ksuba is not some meiser to its friend, automatically I know that achas b'chayav achas b'maisai. Says Gemara, you don't automatically know that. I could say the following scenario: 3 wives, 2 of them are kasubas banim dichrin, 2 of them are kasubas banim dichrin. The 3rd one's in the keva. So then I would say kasubas banim dichrin because this in the keva can't fight with the other 2. What about a scenario where you have 2 wives banim dichrin? 3rd wife gives birth to a son. Now the 3rd son is a Yerusha. He could say I could fight with all of them. So you would think in that scenario what? That you would say Kesuvos banim dichrin because you only say there because he has 2 wives that predeceased, Kamash Malon, you say it even 1 wife predeceased. That's the Gemara. Okay, I'm totally aware that I blew by that like a fastball in the outside corner of the last Gemara, but this is Daf Yomi, and we'll do what we do. We'll go on. You can always listen to the tape, Says the Mishnah. Now this is the continuation. This is where we got the din of a dinar. Misha hayinasu shtei nashim. A person was married to 2 women. Umesa, right? And they die. Yachach mesu, and then he dies. So one of them died, and then he dies. Good. That's the scenario of what? Of achas b'maisai, achas b'chaya. V'yasoymim shmevakshim ksubas iman. The 2nd pair want the ksuba of the mother. No, excuse me. The 1st pair want the ksuba of their mother. The ain't shomel shtei ksubos, right? And you only have enough to pay off both ksubos, cholkim b'shava. Then you can divide it equally. Guys, scenario. 1st wife, $1,000 ksuba. 2nd wife, a $500 ksuba. All he has is $1,500. So if you say ksubas banim dichrin over here, you're giving them 500 ksubas banim dichrin. You did away with the Taurus Yerusha. There's no Yerusha whatsoever. Yerusha is their Raisa. A son inherits the Raisa, right? Ksubas banim dichrin is the Rabbanon. In a place where you're going to get rid of the din of Yerusha, you won't say ksubas banim dichrin. When will you say it? When will you say this one gets 1,000, this one gets 5? When there's a 15 and 1. So now this one gets 1,000, this one gets 1, and now this one gets 500. And now in that one, they'll divide. Again, this is Aleph base. This is what we began the daf with. So each one would take their respective ksubas. One would take the 1,000, the other one would take the 500. Listen, you know what they say? They say our property is worth 1,501. Well, our property is worth 1,001. We'll take 1,000. In other words, what are they doing? They're inflating the price of the property by taking less money. By taking less money, they'll now I'll engage ksubas banim dichrin, right? I'm engaging it. Why? Because you have that dina left over. Again, one more time. Really, it's exactly the amount. But what do? They inflate the price. They say, listen, it's worth 1,001. We'll give 1,000. So now we'll give 1,000. You'll take 500. We'll have one left over. We don't let them do that. They divide it 750, 750. Hayasham nechasim b'roi. Let's say there's a grandfather, and by the grandfather coming into the marriage, eventually his money is going to go ahead. You have $1,500 right now. Roy to come in as a grandfather is $10,000, right? Put you over the top, no problem. We don't say that what you're going to say Kesuvos Banim Dichrin in that situation. You'll only say Kesuvos Banim Dichrin when muhsik, when the guy who died is muhsik, he's holding on to the property, not roy, not something that potentially can come to him. So it says, it's not kibbeh muhsik, and you can divide it 750, not 1,500. Even if you have metaltalin, guys, you have $1,500 and you have another $1,000 worth of metaltalin, you're still not going to say Kesuvos Banim Dichrin. This is the previous Gemara that we said Rabbi Kiva, that Rabbi Shimon only says it by karka. You'll only say the dinar has to be in land, right? It has to be in land. Ksuba dina more than a dinar. So that's this Mishnah basically is a review of the Gemara we just did. This is where I got my scenario from. One ksuba is 1,000, one ksuba is 500. In Yesham Moisa Dina, Eila Noit with Kesuvos Iman, Eila Noit Kesuvos each one will take the ksuba of their mother. If they don't take the ksuba of their mother, each one will have to divide equally. Now, how about this scenario? Pshita Merubim Vinismatu. At the time of death, it was 1501. At the time of division, it was 1500. Do you go after the time of death, or do you go after the time of the division? So it says Pshita Kvar Zachu Ben Yarshim. The Yarshim of the 1,000 was Zaycha. You go after the time of death. You go after the time of death in the Zaycha. Muatim. Let's say what it was 1490. Vinisrabu. That's what it was 1500. Vinisrabu, and now it's 1501. Mai. Do we say it or not? Do we say you go up or not? Toshmat. The nichse de beibar tzirtzur muatim v'nisrabu habe. Initially, it was the exact amount to pay off both ksubis, and then it got worth more, and now it's possible to say Kesuvos Banim Dichrin. Vasal kamei de Rav Amram. They came for the Rav Amram. Amalahu. Rav Amram said, "Zil paisinu, go be mafayis the older brothers. In other words, go give Kesuvos Banim Dichrin. Go appease them by giving Kesuvos Banim Dichrin." So he held that what if it was at the time of death, not the exact amount, 1,500, and it went up. He said you would go ahead and pay up. And Lo Yashko, they didn't listen. They didn't listen to him. They didn't pay off the older brother, the first set of brothers. Amalahu, Eloi mefasisu lahu. If you're not mefayis them, machina lahu, I will hit you bisilu with the thorns, b'leimavi dama, that doesn't bring blood. In other words, that's a lesson of shamta. I'll put you in chayrim. I'll hit you without a physical, I'll hit you, it doesn't cause you blood, you'll be in chayrim. So Shadrinu l'kamei de Rav Nachman, they came in front of Rav Nachman, the Shaila, Amalahem, Kishem Shem Arubim in the Smatu, just like when it's worth a lot and it goes down, you say Kesuvos Banim Dichrin, Zach ben Yarshim, came Muatim in the Srabu, Zach ben Yarshim, and you would not say Kesuvos Banim Dichrin in this scenario. This one would get 750, despite the fact at the time of the division, it would be Roy to be Banim Dichrin. We don't say that. Okay, Simin Elef Umeya Mitzvah B'Ksuba Yaakov Zakef Sedoisa B'Dvarim Asikin, and this is going to take us to Daf Sadik Gimel. Just by way of Hakdama, guys, since Sukkot is approaching and I'm feeling the pressure of being behind, tomorrow night we're going to do 2 blot. Tomorrow night I plan to do 2 blot Gemara because it's a very short blot tomorrow, and so hold on to your seats. Okay, so we want to get ready. Tomorrow we're going to do 2 blot, so it'll be a blot ahead, and then we'll be on. Everything will be great. Kupasetic, I'll have a good yontif as a result. Says the Gemara. Hahu Gavra, there was this individual, Davmaski Bey Alpha Zuze. He was owed 1,000 zuz. Now we're going to bring this case in because it has shaykhus from our Mishnah. He was owed 1,000 zuz. Havle Trey Apadne, he had 2 mansions. Zabni, and he sold it to the same guy. Sabni Chode b'chamesh meya, b'chode b'chamesh meya. He sold it to the same guy, one for 500, another one for 500. Now he had 1,000 zuz. Asa Bal Chayv, came along the Bal Chayv to the one who bought these mansions, and Tarfa l'chad minayu, he grabbed one of the mansions, and it was sold for 500. Hada kataraf leidach, he went to get the other mansion that was sold for 500. So Shakal Alpha Zuze, the person, the Lekeach who bought it, took $1,000, and he said, "Listen, the Kozla Gabe," and he went to him. Amalei, he told him, Ishavis Lecha Alpha Zuze, if the first mansion that you took is worth you 1,000, Lechai, keep it. In other words, this is the scenario for my Mishnah, guys. This is an inflated price. In other words, if it's worth to you 1,000, then keep it. But you can't get the second mansion. the Eloi, and if the first mansion is not worth 1,000 to you, only 500, shakel alpha zuze, here's the $1,000 you're owed, v'istalik, and leave me the first mansion. Again, let's go outside. He was owed $1,000. The person that he was owed went ahead and sold 2 places, each one for 500, and those are meshubit to pay this guy. So now he shows up to the guy who bought it, and he says, I got a lien on this property. Here, he grabs the mansion. Now, that mansion was worth 500. So he grabs the second mansion. Before he grabbed the second mansion, this Lekech came to him with $1,000 cash. And he said the following. If this first mansion that you bought, you're happy with the 500, and you're happy with the 1,000, then keep it. But give me the second one. And if it's not worth 1,000 to you, here's $1,000 that you're owed, and give me the mansion. Good? That's what happened over here. Now, what shaykhs does it have to our Mishnah? Our Mishnah, we also try to inflate his property, right? He wanted to say, look, it's 1,001. I bought it for 1,000. Here, it's 500. He bought it for 1,000. So we want to know if the Lekeach can do this. So Sava Rami Barchama Lameimar, Rami Barchama held to say, Hainamas Nisan. That's our Mishnah. Meaning, what's our Mishnah? Im Amu Yisoimim Hari Anu Mailim Al Nichse Avinu Yafa Dinar. We will go ahead and inflate the price of what? Of our father more dinar. You get a dinar more. We said he can't do that. So too over here, you're inflating the price of the mansion. It's not worth 1,000. It's only worth 500. So Amalei Rava says, Rava to Rami, me dummy. How can you compare the two? Hassam over there, Islu b'seideli assignment. Over there, guys, what are you doing? You're causing the assignment to lose quite a bit. They're holding on to a ksuba for 500. If you don't inflate the price, they're going to get 750. But now, if you inflate the price, they're going to get 500. There's a loss. But hacha mi islay pseida alpha yohiv alpha shakel, right? In other words, he's giving him 1,000. That's all the loan was. So l'chayra, if it's worth it to you, keep the price and don't get the second mansion. So in other words, Rav is telling Rami it's not comparable to our Mishnah at all. Our Mishnah, by inflating it, the guy's going to take a loss. The Yisraelim are going to take a loss in the Ksuba. Because why? Because they're going to divide according to Bani Duchrin. This one will get 1,000, this will get 500. So by not inflating it, they're going to get 750 because they're going to divide up to 1,500. In this scenario over here, Memanav Shach, this guy's getting 1,000. Either he's happy with a mansion that was inflated, but he's happy with it, or he's getting 1,000. So said Rabbi, in this case, the Leikayach has every right to do that, to go ahead, tell the guy, keep the mansion for 500 for 1,000, give me back the other one, or here's $1,000 and give me both mansions. How we doing? Okay, that's the first scenario of the Mishnah that of the Siman of Elef, right? So the next one is Meya. This is the exact same case, says the Mishnah, says the Gemara. Just one question. The star tirfa that he ripped away, does he get it for 500 or 1,000? Does it say you get 500 or 1,000? The tirfa bekama, a tirfa means that the star that to collect the lien property. Because how much is it? Rabino Amar be'alfa 1,000, Rabbi Vira Amar b'chamesh meya, v'hilchasa b'chamesh meya 500. Ahu gavra davi maski meya zuze. There was a guy who was owed $100. Havile trei katine. The Ari had 2 small parcels of land. Chad zavinu b'chamisha. He sold one for 50. B'chad chamisha, and he sold the other one for 50. Asa bal chayv tarfa l'chad minayu. Hada Amar hada asa v'katarf lidach. He wanted to take it away from the same guy. So in this case, instead of mansions, you have what? You have little parcels of land. And instead of 1,000, it's what? It's 100. Instead of 500, it's 50. Shakel kavzuze v'ka'azul gabe. He took the lekeach who bought the 2 parcels of land, took $100 and went over to him. V'yamalei. Isha v'isalacha kavzuze l'chai. If that first piece of land that you took, that you bought, what was sold for 50, you're happy with, great. And give me back the second one. If not, here's 100 and get out. Some Rabbi Yosef Lamema like Rami, Hainu Masnisa, and Rami Yisaimim, Amli Abayim Midami. Same answer. Hasam Islu Pseideli asked me over there. You're causing a Pseida to the assignment. Hacha, my Pseida Islay. There's no Pseida. There's no loss to the Balchayv. Meya Yav, Meya Shakel. B'tirfa B'kama, Kasvina Ravina Amar B'meya, Ravavira Amar B'chamisha, V'ilchasa B'chamishin. You always write the lesson now. The guy was owed what? $100. Shachiv, he died. Shabe Katina Da'ara, Dabi Shabi Chamisha Zuze. He left a piece of land that was worth 50 zuz. Asabal Choy B'Katarafle. So also Yasme Yav Le Chamisha Zuz. They came along and they paid. He took the field. They gave him 50 zuz, and then they went to take the field back. They gave him 50 zuz, and they went to take the field back. In other words, so Hada Katarafle, then he returned and he took the field. In other words, you didn't have to pay him money, it's a mitzvah, but you did it. But once you did that, Hani Kamoi mitzvah, the $50 you gave him initially, you did a mitzvah. Hashta ki tarif, now that he's being tired from you, the extra 50, bidin katarif. He's being the din. In other words, if you gave him the money, not for the field, right, just separately, so you gave him $50 towards $100 chayiv, he still owed 50, he can grab the field. Had you said the following, that's for the land. Then you would be masalikim with the 50. So in other words, because then the other 50 would have been the talton the yasmi, you wouldn't have to do the mitzvah. Next scenario. Who gavra the zovn l'ksubasa the imei b'tavasana. This guy went ahead. He sold the ksuba of his mother for tavasana. Now, this is a really talk about a futures. Listen to this. A, his mother may not be able to collect the ksuba because she may predecease the husband. B, he may predecease his mother. So anyone buying this is in double jeopardy. Think about it. What's the chance of you going ahead and collecting this ksuba? It's very remote. One, you need the father to outlive the wife, the wife to outlive the father, and two, you need the son to outlive the mother. In Sveitens, it's not even his to sell. Let's say the mother would come along and say no sale. He's selling it and his mother didn't collect it yet, right? His mother would come along and say no sale. So no sale. So listen to the Gemara. He sold the ksubas mother for a minimal amount. And he added the following joiner. Isya aim. If my mother shows up, right? Then you can't. I can't save you. In other words, I owe you nothing. If you're giving whatever money you're giving to me, you lose. Anyway, what happened? His mother, his mother died, and she didn't go ahead and be ma'ara at all. What happened? He came along, become ma'ara, and he was in the place of the mother. You hear this guy? He sold the rights. He said, on the condition my mother doesn't make a complaint. The mother didn't complain. He inherits it. And now he's complaining like it's the mother. He's in the place of the mother. So he's in the place of the mother, and therefore it's a good error. And therefore he gets his money back. Good, he wasn't Makabal Achrayas for his mother, but Achrayas the day Milay Kabal, was he not Makabal Achrayas himself? He was Makabal Achrayas himself. And therefore he would not be able to go ahead and rescind the money, the Taivas Hana, but the deal goes through, that's the deal. And the guy would be able to collect the ksuba. Okay, so that's Hashem tomorrow night. Wish again, everyone's good to see everyone.